Terracotta visions cloud the mind. The spirit bends and strips to its skeletal soul. The soul warped by the hand of design. That hand being none other than the inky gauntlets of John Blanch himself. Greetings, chromatic warriors. I am back again, and as promised last week, I'm expanding into Volume 2 in this video. Previously, we talked about building a color scheme with the Imperial Robot, and now I'd like to talk about a mud palette being applied to a Warboss. But first of all, I could not resist customizing the Warboss a little bit. I feel like this topic kind of necessitates some conversion work. So I added a extra flag, I removed the grot, little addition by subtraction, added a pair of skulls, hanging down on the cod piece, and built up a snappy base. Oh, and some extra tusks too. What is an orc without many, many spikes? And also, another question that I know the answer to. What is a mud palette? Well, it is a homogeneous pile of paint, and we're going to see how that will be applied to a Warboss. I think it gives a unique look that also mirrors that particular finish you would see in a John Blanch painting. As always, I only break the laws, and I'll be borrowing shining silver and black from the general fanatic range, but everything else can be found within these 2 volumes of color. So, let's get into it. Make mud upon the base, wet blending Tainted Garden, the darkness, and patches of Sunburst Ochre. As I'm working, I want to make sure to keep the darker mixes towards the outer areas of the mound. This gives it a little bit of lift, and it's natural to see. And those patches of Sunburst Ochre help to break things up in just the perfect way. But once that is dry, I'm going to lightly dry brush a mixture of Ivory White and Moonbeam Yellow across all of the debris. In order to maintain a harmony with the base/atmosphere, I'll be mixing all of these earthy tones into my color scheme. Working from the inside out, I'll start with the pants, using Iron Hull Gray mixed with Tainted Garden. I'll also cover all the hoses and any leather wrappings in the same mixture. The impenetrable mega armor will be mixed up from the darkness, black, and Tainted Garden, using small amounts of Ivory White to roughly wet blend highlights. It is an orc after all, but just applying a little bit of a zenithal indication, maybe some specular highlights, very slight. For the skin, I want it to be exceptionally pale. My orcs only come out at night, and I think that this extremely pale flesh will be unique. It's going to stand out against the black armor. Not that I know that an orc can tan like humans. Base the flesh with a mixture of Tainted Garden and Ivory White. Then a pass of highlights mixed by adding more Ivory White. I can't ignore the face at this point. There are certain features of the orcish visage. The interior of the mouth is based with violent Vermillion and Tainted Garden, with a small touch of Ivory White to highlight. The teeth are small. Let's use the same colors for the decorative tusks. Base coated with a Banshee brown and Tainted Garden mixture. There it is again. Wet blend Ivory White towards the base, and the original base coat for the armor, that's the darkness, a little Tainted Garden and black, towards the tip. Then add some linear strokes near the base to create a ribbed texture. Dot the eyes in with Ivory White real quick. Then, mixing Violent Vermillion into the base skin tone, which, as a reminder, that was Ivory White and Tainted Garden, I'll use that mixture to glaze it towards the tips of the ears, a little bit around the eyes, on the nose, the muzzle, the elbows, the knuckles. Just want to add a little bit of a fleshy inflammation. Pale orcs in the heat of battle. Continuing to work from the inside out and from large to small, next up I'll pick out all of the glyph plates. First, I'm going to take a coating of Moonbeam Yellow combined with Tainted Garden, and then raise things up with some pure Moonbeam Yellow. I guess I'm breaking from the format a little bit. I think this brighter, more saturated yellow is going to sit nicely amongst all the dinge. To block in the metallics, a coat of heavy metal was added to every bit per bob. Also, a 50-50 mixture of heavy metal and Emperor Gold for the exhaust sleeves. I like this little variation on the metal, and in hindsight, I kind of regret not painting all of the metals this way. It just gives it more of a dinged out, homogeneous, muddy tone. And now that all of the areas have a base coat and a stage of highlighting, it is time for a unifying wash. Now, the one exception is on the skin. I'm going to use some diluted Voodoo shade to darken that. And for everything else, from bottom to top, including the base, a wash of the darkness. This is diluted down to taste, but everything is getting an all-over filtering. It's going to seep into the crevices, help to unify all the tones. Boy, I love washes. And if you like this video, please remember to hit the like and subscribe button down below. You know what it does. I also have links for merchandise. You can wear a shirt with my name on it, or you could get a cup with my name on it. Pretty cool. And now, to raise all the surfaces up from the muddy murk, I'll be adding Ivory White into every foundational tone. So I have all of my mixtures already laid out on my palette, just adding a small touch of Ivory White to that to taste, and highlight with that. I'll also be adding scratches and dents where I can. It's an orc, you want him to look like he has run through a cornfield of barbed wire, which is kind of a battlefield in a way, but everything is broken and the orcs are always half off. With all of that set in place, I'll add some Grim Rust into the mix. I love these special effects paints, and what this Grim Rust is going to give me is not only a different texture that I think is part of composition, having a variety of textures in place, but also chromatically, it's bringing this warmth into an overall cold and dark model. So it just really sets nicely in there. And take your time. I want to lay down very thin amounts and gradually build things up. Be sure to avoid the hydraulics though. In this completely made up fantasy world, we do still need working hydraulics, so they would be clean silver. To highlight all the metallics, I'm going to add the borrowed color Shining Silver into the mix. I'll be picking out all the edges, adding again little notches and scratches and dents here and there. Take your time and add these very slightly. I'd rather have sharp peaks of highlight instead of a broad, smooth, shining silver on an orc. And that's a Warboss, painted in a very limited amount of colors. I didn't even use every tone from these volumes. But let's have a look at my palette. What is the mud palette? Does it make more sense now? You see how combining all of these earthy tones in this example into every stage leading upwards, it really gave me a cohesive look. You may also have noticed that I did not use absolute black anywhere. I mixed black in with some tones, but I don't know, as I was thinking about it, real life doesn't have black outlines. Most fine art does not, so I thought I would try limiting the amount of black included. And yeah, not have any total black. It gives it a kind of a lighter, washed out look. There's certainly not a lack of darkness on the model. And it's safe to say I've been blanching out. I think with these two volumes, it gives you just about all the colors you need. I painted up this Beastman for, I guess, Trench Crusade. It's an old kit bashed model, so more of those will be coming along. You saw the Imperial Robot from last week's video, the Warboss from this week's video. A lot of fun to be had within these two volumes. So I hope that this has inspired you to work within a limited palette of colors and see exactly what you can stretch out of that. So, until we meet again, my friends, on down that chromatic trail, remain unchained.